Hello, Grandma here, and I'm reading the Golden Goblet by Eloise Jarvis McGraw, Chapter 5, the first part. Gaboo's joviality lasted for several days, and as was usual during these periods, Ranofer fared better as to food. His stomach ceased gnawing, but his anxieties did not. He was able to show fair patience for the first day or so of waiting for the grains of gold to accumulate in Ibni's next wineskin. But after that, though he told himself it was still too early, he could not help expecting every moment to see Heqet's signal that Rekh had been told, and all was well. At last, on the fourth morning, close to midday, he noticed Heqet standing close beside Rekh's work table, ostensibly watching the goldsmith raise a bowl, but actually whispering to him under cover of the hammer taps. Ranofer turned away quickly, terrified that someone else would notice. He need not have worried. Anxiety caused him to make so many blunders the rest of the day that the whole shop's attention was irritably focused on him. When he reached the gold house next morning, he glanced instantly toward the big washing vats. Ibni was there, the same as every other day, unconcernedly dumping a sack of raw gold into the vat. For a moment, Ranofer could not believe it. Surely only Rekh knew he would turn Ibni out of the shop forever. Surely it was Ibni who was doing the thieving. Perhaps Rekh did not know yet. Perhaps Heqet had been telling him something else yesterday. Or horrid thought, perhaps Rekh did not believe him. All day, Ranofer went about his duties mechanically, forcing himself to abide by his own decision that he and Heqet should not be seen in conversation. At last, in the late afternoon, he could bear it no longer. He watched his chance and stood close beside Heqet on the pretext of helping him stoke an oven. Have you told him yet? Aye, yesterday. I thought so. Why does he not do something then? I do not know. Perhaps he cannot find the wineskin. Did he believe you? Oh, I'm sure he did. You did not mention my name. You know I would not. There was nothing to do but go on waiting, that day and the next and the next. 8 days gone already, Ranofer thought as he walked homeward one evening, yet nothing has changed at all. There must be much gold in that wineskin by now. In another day or two, Ibni will be waiting for me again, handing me the filthy thing, and I shall have to take away that proof too, and then we must start all over and wait some more. I cannot do it. I cannot. I'll run away first. I'll slip away to the docks at night, that's what I'll do, and hide on a Nile boat, and go wherever it takes me. Aye, but then, what would I do, and how would I live? Suppose the boat was sailing south, straight into Kush, where men are barbarians and the gods are not true gods, and people speak gibberish instead of talking sensibly as Egyptians do. Suppose a sharp collision with a puffing fat man brought Ranofer up short. Next instant, he was knocked off balance again by a group of urchins scrambling past him, to be shoved aside in their turn by workers dashing off the ferry boats they had just boarded and into the road. Blinking, Ranofer stared about him. Something was happening. People were shouting, gesturing to each other, beginning to run all in the same direction, southward, toward the palace. Confused and jostled, Ranofer was swept along by the crowd, trying in vain to catch a glimpse of the palace walls over a sea of bobbing heads. At the sound of drums up ahead and the squeal of trumpets, his curiosity drove even his anxiety from his mind. He was trying to force his way around a stubborn, motionless donkey when a hand caught his arm. Don't hurry, young one. You don't want to see it. See what? What is it? As the crowd streamed past, Ranofer tried impatiently to free his arm, but the donkey's owner held it fast. Turning, Ranofer saw that it was the old man he had met in the papyrus marsh. It's an execution, young one. I, Turn back. You'll see enough killing before you're as old as I am. Ranofer squinted again toward the palace walls, partially visible beyond the palm-fringed garden of a nobleman's villa. The drums were pounding louder, as if to drown out a faint but spine-chilling screaming. The small, struggling figure of a man was being hoisted by one roped foot up the palace wall, to be fastened halfway to the top and left dangling, head down. Another followed. "Who are they, ancient?" Ranofer asked. "What have they done?" "They are tomb robbers, young one. They broke into the places of silence. They stole away the dead Pharaoh's treasure and sold them in the marketplace. Aye, they deserve what they get, but you don't need to watch it." "Tomb robbers?" Shivering, Ranofer stared at the distant copper-brown figures writhing along the white wall. Because of these wicked ones and their thievery, the Ba of some long-dead pharaoh was now starving and destitute in the land of the West, stripped of the magical protection of his jeweled amulets, robbed of the food and gold and furniture and weapons, placed in his tomb to sustain him in luxury for his 3,000 years of paradise. If the wicked ones had harmed his mummy, then even his Ba was dead. For a man's soul could not live if his former body were destroyed. Murder of the soul was a terrible, unnatural crime, hideous to think about. His flesh crawling, Ranofer hastily turned his back, pulling away from the ancient. "You are right. I don't want to see it. Let me go, old one. You have wisdom as well as youth, a most unusual combination." The old man released him, chuckling, and Ranofer started back along the street. Such cheerfulness grated on him today. The ancient followed, however, giving a tug on his donkey's lead rope. "Come along, my little lotus, quicken your hoofbeats. It's not every day we may walk with one so young and wise, though indeed I believe he is trying to run away from us." "No, I'm not." Ranofer slowed his pace, ashamed of his surliness. To make amends, he patted the donkey's coarse-haired, fuzzy head. "I see you've sold your papyrus," he added, nodding toward the empty pack baskets. "Aye, at the sailmakers. They pay little, but it's enough for Lotus and me. Today was a good day. My baskets near burst under the load." The old man cackled happily, digging 6 copper ring coins out of a skimpy sash and exhibiting them to Ranofer. "I shall have cakes with my lentil tonight and sleep sound on my mat." He whirled the rings on his fingertip, then tucked them away, patting his sash complacently. "Where do you live?" Ranofer asked. "Yonder, where the fields of the flower growers end and the desert begins." The ancient pointed a thin finger westward. "The land there is waterless, but free to anyone. I built me a little house out of bricks I made with my own hands." "Aye, every brick," he repeated, as Ranofer looked at him with sudden interest. "I had no straw to put in them, but they will last my lifetime and my old donkey's. We are happy there, Lotus and I." "And the donkey, is there pasture for him?" "Not a blade, not a twig, young one, but he has learned to like papyrus." The ancient gave his high-pitched chuckle, his one eye bright as enamel under the dark line of coal painted on the upper lip. "Also, I buy him a handful of grain whenever I have an extra copper. He does not ask much." Affectionately, he pulled the little beast's ear, then nodded toward a street they were approaching. "I leave you here. Farewell, young and wise one. May I never see you hanging from the palace walls." Cackling cheerfully, he turned off down the crooked lane, the old donkey plodding behind him. Ranofer watched until the shadow swallowed them, then walked on through the dusk-filled streets in which an occasional torch bloomed now over doorway or gate. He is happy, the boy thought. He eats, he sleeps in a house he made, he has coppers in his sash. Why could I not go in the early mornings to the marshes, cut papyrus and sell it to the sailmakers, then be Rekh's apprentice the rest of the day? Holy Mother Mutt, why not? I too could live on the edge of the desert near my father's tomb. I could make bricks for a house. I could. He turned a last corner and stopped his excited daydreams fading. There was the familiar gate, the ugly street, reality. I cannot do all that, he thought. I do not even have a donkey to carry the papyrus, and besides, there is Goblet. I must go on waiting. Next morning, there was a stranger in Ibni's place at the vats. To Ranofer, it was as if the sun had come out at last after weeks of gloomy night. The sky was radiant, the air on his cheek miraculously caressing. Even the ovens seemed things of beauty, and every worker in the shop a skilled and witty fellow. He flew about his task, buoyant with triumph and overflowing with energy. Rekh watched him speed back and forth between shop and courtyard, and finally stopped him smiling. "You'll not last the day if you keep up the pace. What has got into you? Did you swallow a hive of bees?" "Nay, master, it's nothing." Ranofer did not know what to say. "It is something, but I do not mean to pry. May the gods continue to smile on you, little one, for a change. Now, run to Abba the potter's for me and get the new crucible to replace the faulty one. Also, buy 5 measures of natron on your way back. Tomorrow, perhaps, you may make me a few gold leaves for Lady Hattus's bracelet." Scarcely touching the ground in his rapture, Ranofer sped through the city of dead to Abba's shop, and from there to the long, low shed in the marketplace where the dealers in natron and spices and incense sold their wares. He was leaving the marketplace when his nostrils still full of fragrances when he saw Ibni, the Babylonian, emerging from a wine shop just ahead of him. In a panic, as sudden as it was unreasoned, Ranofer wheeled into an alley and crouched there trembling until the Babylonian was certain to be gone. Even then, he dared not venture onto the big streets, but found his way back to the gold house furtively through the alleys like one hiding from pursuers. Why, he kept asking himself angrily. I've nothing to fear from him. He cannot possibly know it was I who told Rekh. Indeed, it was not I who told Rekh. For all Ibni knows, no one told Rekh at all. He merely discovered it. The rapture was gone for the day, nevertheless. Ibni was here and alive in the city of dead, whereas Ranofer had somehow been thinking of him as simply gone, like a puff of smoke. Goblet was still here and alive, too, very much so. And the aftermath of Ibni's dismissal was still to come. Ibni would certainly report to Goblet if he had not already done so. And would Goblet ever believe Ranofer had nothing to do with it? Well, we're going to stop there on his way back to the Gold's house with the supplies to make the leaves. And we'll read it again tomorrow. Bye-bye.